And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Richard Breese is a fantastic, well-known designer. He's most well-known for a series of games he published that kind of are in the same universe or have the same theme behind them, and they're called the key games, like Cathedral or Keytown. Well, Keydom was one of the earlier games, and it did well, was popular, but he produces his games in small runs, and so it was republished by Rio Grande and Hans im Glück as Aladdin's Dragons. I think there might be some changes from this in the original Keydom, but there was certainly a retheming of it. So this is one of my reviews where I go back and take a look at an older game. This came out in 2000, so it's 13 years old, but it is a fantastic game. Let's take a look. You'll notice that the board for this game is very long and lengthy, and it has a really nice background to it. You can see the whole city here, starting with the caves where the dragons hide their treasures, to the outskirts of cities, all the way up into the palace of the vizier. So what this game is going to do is you are going to be taking treasure from these dragons and using it to win artifacts that are up here. Getting the most artifacts is how you win the game. Each player is going to start with a shield, which explains how artifacts work, and they will also get a bunch of tokens that are numbered from 2 to 9 in their color, and they also will start with a pile of these treasures. Now, these treasures are still one of the coolest components to any game. I don't know exactly what the treasures stand for. I think these are chalices and these are little gold bars, but I don't know that I've ever played this game with anybody who hasn't called these chiclets. But they're fun little plastic pieces, and then there's larger ones, which basically count for 3 of the smaller ones. So at the beginning of each round, you're going to draw a card from a deck, depending on how many players. So let's say there's 5 players playing, which is the max. I'll turn this over, and it tells me how many treasures. So, for example, I'll put a large and a small one here, and a large one here. It also tells me to put 5 treasures here, 3 and 2 twos. And then 3, and then 2 here, and then the blue one, I put a 3, and then 2 white ones here, and 1 there, and nothing in the red one. And so that's the treasure, but you can see on each of these cards, the treasures will vary. Sometimes there's treasure in all 5, sometimes it's only sometimes there's 4 different treasures, and sometimes there's just 1. So there's different variants, and these cards are different, again, based on the number of players. Well, what players are going to do then in turn order? In turn order, we'll start with the person who has this camel, is they're going to take one of their tokens, and they're 1 to 9, by the way, not 2 to 9. They'll take one of these tokens, and they'll place it face down anywhere on the board. Now, many of the spots on the board can have multiple tokens placed on them of the same color, so I might put this one there later on if someone else puts one. And so people are going to be going around and putting out these tokens. Once everyone has put out their tokens, you will start from the red dragon's cave, and you'll move over, and then you can see the stairs here. Then you come back over in this part of the city, and then you go up here and into the palace of the vizier. Each place is different. If there are treasures, you turn over all the numbers and you add them together. So blue has 10, yellow has 6, and green has 2. The highest number gets the top treasure. If there's a second grouping, that would go to the second highest. If there's a third grouping, go to the third highest. So you can throw a 1 out there if there's multiples, and as long as one other player, one of the 5 players, hadn't put 1 out, I would get a treasure. And you will just take these treasures and put them behind your shield. Then, moving up into the city, here you can get special magic cards. Whoever puts the most there will get 2 of them, keep 1, and give the other one to the person who put the second most of their markers here. Here, if you put them there, you can use 2 artifacts this turn rather than just 1. Here you can trade in 1 small treasure for any 3 small treasures. So basically you get an increase of 2 of any types you want. And here you get the camel, and the camel's great because it tells you who goes first, but much more importantly, it breaks ties. So that can have a lot to do with the game. At the beginning of each round, up here in the palace, there's going to be a guard token put here from 1 to 10. and you don't see what they are, but you have to put somebody here to beat the guard. Let's say the guard is 4, and you put a guy who's 6, then you can get in. But if the guard was a higher number, let's say he was a 10 guard, then I would have to pay the difference in treasures to bribe that guard, or else I wouldn't even be allowed in the palace this turn. The palace is where you win the game, so you don't want to not be in the palace. So you have to beat that guard if possible. Here are the artifacts of the game. To win an artifact, the highest bid will win in each category. So let's say, for example, that in this category, yellow has won this bid with a bid of 5. Yellow must pay 5 treasures of the same color. Doesn't matter what they are. Doesn't matter if they're orange, black, blue, white, or red. They have to pay 5 of the same. If yellow can't, then red can do it. Whoever can pay the most gets it. Now, red put 2 tokens, and they're a 1 and a 2, so red has to pay 2 of one type and 1 of another type. Whoever wins that is going to get that artifact and keep it at the end of the game. Whoever has the most artifacts is the winner. During each round, you can use artifacts. Like this one here will double one of your tokens. This one here cancels a card that someone else plays. These keys here are important because at the end of the that lets you get into the palace, and whoever gets in, you don't need to bribe the guard to get into the palace. And then these scrolls are important because whoever has the most of them at the end of the game will break ties if that matters. Now you can play a basic version of this game which does not use these magic cards and does not use the special abilities or the artifacts. They're basically all the same. You just get an artifact and whoever has the most is the winner, although I would highly recommend playing the full game. You will keep doing that for several rounds until all the artifacts have been taken and whoever has the most is the winner, broken by ties. I have found that several people are not big fans of this game, but it's almost always for the same thing. They don't like what is called blind bidding. Blind bidding is when you put out tokens or you bid, but you don't know what everyone else has bid. Think of a silent auction where people write down numbers, sometimes throw them in, and whoever bid the highest wins it. In this case, though, when you blind bid a token, you are committing that token. So if you've lost the use of that token that round. In this game, though, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You can go for treasures, and unless you just get totally reamed by everybody for some reason, you will get a treasure. If you really want a treasure, you can win it. You can put your 9 and then your 8 there, and that's 17. Who's going to beat that? But the key is not to get those treasures, although you need to get them. And the key is not to get the magic cards or to go first or to trade in 1 for 3. That's all useful stuff. It's getting into that palace. At the beginning of the game, people have very few treasures, but if you can get in that palace, you can get an artifact for 1 or 2 because no one else has enough treasures to outbid you there. Later on in the game, players will have many more treasures, and so the bidding will be fiercer up there, but then they're not collecting as many down from the dragons, so maybe you can jump down there. I found that the game works very well. I lose a few auctions or places each turn, but I win just as many usually, and in many of the places, multiple people will get something. I very much enjoyed it. I think the theme, even though this wasn't the original theme for the game, it comes through very well because you run in there, you're sending thieves in to steal that, you're bribing or beating up the palace guard, you get in, and then you're doing whatever you need to do to get those artifacts. Meanwhile, using magic cards, or if you get an artifact, you can use the magic of that artifact to help you. It's not a super strong theme, but it works for this game. And this game still is in my collection, which is a pretty impressive feat, since as new great games come out, I often will get rid of a game so I can put the new game in. This one is still around. In fact, I'd really like to see a reprinting of this one. It is out of print, but you might be able to find it used or on eBay or something, and maybe someone will reprint it someday. But this is... might be one of my favorite games that Mr. Breese has designed. Aladdin's Dragons, just that whole aspect of putting things out. Like I said, I played the full game with the magic artifacts and cards. It's a little bland without them. And just the back and forth. It's pretty neat, and if you ever have a chance, you run across it somewhere. There's very few games that do what this one does. Like I said, there's a lot of people with an aversion to blind bidding, but I think this game actually takes it and uses it better than most. It might be blind, but you still see where people put their tokens, and you still can get a feel. If they put 2 tokens somewhere, they must really want it. Or did they put 2 small tokens? They can bluff you a little, but it's pretty obvious what people want. The question is, who wants it more and who's willing to put their tokens out? You have a lot of tokens to spread each turn, a lot of fun, great artwork, great production, a very good game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.
There.